folks, it's Carlos Watson. I'm back with another episode, and guess who's joining me today? Megyn Kelly, arguably one of the most impactful journalists of the last decade or so. In some ways, not only helped Fox rise, but brought Roger Ailes down, and now is back to talk about the new world. Ooh, this is a good one. You don't want to miss it. We're in the midst of resetting America.
I have arrived.
What was Fox like?
I didn't want to make a federal case out of it. I certainly didn't want to light the building on fire. I just wanted him to stop. Donald Trump, elected 45th president of the United States. And it was like, my bully just got elected president of the United States. And how's that going to shake out? I'm almost a First Amendment absolutist. I'm worried about what's happening to the country. So I think it's worth fighting for.
Megyn Kelly, nice to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Where are you? Are you in New York or are you elsewhere?
I am on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. It is liberal central, and I am in the belly of the beast.
I like it. And maybe they've converted you. Have they converted you yet or no?
I keep walking around saying, I got a couple of things that I can relate to with you folks. I come from a family of Democrats. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican either. I'm open-minded. I'm definitely more right-leaning than I am left, but I get you. I feel you, people. I feel you.
I'm like one of these biography junkies, and there used to have this thing called Behind the Music. Did you ever see Behind the Music? Did you ever watch those? I used to have back in the day. So where does your story do that? You know, those in Behind the Music, someone's always rolling along, and then all of a sudden they go that. Where does your story do that?
It was second year of law school, and I know you went to Stanford, which is not the same as Albany, where I went. But Albany is the Stanford of Albany. And, you do your clerkship between your second and third year. And that's supposed to turn into your real job. And my firm did not make me an offer. And I was like, I have got to turn this around somehow. I have to get a job. And all the firms coming on campus were the big New York firms, that paid $80,000 or $85,000 an hour, which was a fortune, right? A fortune back in 1995. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to get one of those. I just got rejected for the $40,000 a year job. But there was one firm, and they paid well. It was like a boutique law firm, like The Firm, like that, where they only took one person every year from Albany, that just one. And I was like, maybe it could be me. So I put everything I could into getting that interview and getting that job, and I got it. And they were like, not only do we want to hire you, but we'll put you in any office you want to go in. We have an office in New York, we have one in Dallas, we have one in DC, and we have one in Chicago. We would love for you to go to Chicago. And I was like, oh God, I'm moving to Chicago. It's like, I was from Albany. And Chicago is with the twinkly lights and Michigan Avenue and the covered bridges and Lake Michigan. And it was like, I put on Tina Turner. I drank Franzia box wine. And I looked out at a water view and said, I have arrived.
Was there anyone else around you who thought, A, you were going to make it, and B, who was around when you arrived?
No one thought I was going to make it, no. I came from a family that the messaging was basically, you don't really seem special so far, but we're very open-minded to specialness if you happen to exhibit it. I always laugh when I see the movie Legally Blonde, because the dad says to Reese Witherspoon's character, law school is for people who are boring and ugly and serious. And you're none of those things, Button. I think my mom was like, law school is for people who are serious, honey pie. You went to camp for aerobics and cheerleading. They don't have cheerleading scholarships to law school.
What was Fox like? Because I've always admired you from afar, that you went from the law firm into journalism. What was Fox like?
A friend I met at the correspondence dinner where I went for ABC that I was working for part-time said, you should get your tape to Fox. Anyway, long and the short of it is I got my tape there and they offered me a job. So I was like, great, I'll do it. For me, it was never ideological. I just wanted to report the news. And they hired me to cover the Supreme Court just to be a general reporter. So I was like, great. I loved covering the Supreme Court. We had the Alito confirmation hearing and the Roberts confirmation hearing shortly after I got there.
The nomination of John G. Roberts, Jr. of Maryland to be Chief Justice of the United States is confirmed.
I'm like, this is great. I don't have any of the pressures of being the lawyer doing it. And I have all the fun of then getting to talk about it and analyze it for people.
Who gave you your break there? Was it Roger Ailes or was it someone else?
Well, Kim Hume is the one who interviewed me. She's married to Britt Hume, and she used to run the DC bureau. And boy, she held the cards close to the vest. Like, I sat with her for 3 hours, and she did not let on at all.
Wait, 3 hours? Literally?
3 hours. And then Britt Hume comes by, and she's like, Britt, meet Megyn. And he's like, saw the tape. We all love you. How fast can we get you up to meet Roger Ailes? I'm like, I love Britt. But at Fox, no one got hired or got ahead unless they had Roger Ailes in their corner. So he was definitely the main person backing me and giving me opportunity there.
I appreciated you when you raised the sexual harassment issues and when you were not afraid. How was it for you in having to deal with him, given the complexity of that?
It began with, I just admired him and I was a little afraid of him because he was inspirational and funny and smart, but also a little scary. And then it morphed into a period of direct, undeniable harassment, culminating in him trying to make out with me in his office 3 times. And when I wouldn't, he stopped me and said, when is your contract up?
I did tell a supervisor about it. And that supervisor told me that Roger was a good man, that he was likely just smitten with me, and that I should try to avoid him.
I didn't want to make a federal case out of it. I certainly didn't want to light the building on fire. I just wanted him to stop and to just see me through professional eyes. And then he did. And we got past it. I became good friends with him. I loved Roger, in a weird way. I cared for his wife. I cared for his son. Doug and I, my husband, had been to their house for dinner many times. Then Gretchen Carlson filed that lawsuit.
Fox News Chairman Roger Ailes is responding to a lawsuit filed by lawyers for Gretchen Carlson.
In Carlson's complaint, she says Ailes began sexually harassing her, making comments in one-on-one meetings like, I think you and I should have had a sexual relationship a long time ago.
I've said before, I wasn't her biggest fan, and I did care for him. So it's like, I don't know what I believe. And I hadn't been viewing him for all those 10 years as a serial harasser. I always thought it was like he was about me. He wanted to go to bed with me. So I really wrestled with whether to speak up. What made me finally do it was I got wind of the fact that they were going to conduct an investigation, but only of the people who worked with Gretchen, which meant about 6 people, half of whom were guys. So I knew I wouldn't be called in there to tell a story. No one would ask me. No one would ask any other talent who would have been alone in his office as I was. And that's what ultimately made me call Lachlan Murdoch and say, I don't know what he is, but you need to do a real investigation. And they did.
They've received sexual harassment accusations against Ailes from more than 20 women. Some allegations date back to the 1960s.
He had been doing it to many others for many years and been getting away with it scot-free. And he had a team of protectors there who had been enabling him.
What would you tell other people who may not be in the same situation, so it may not be sexual harassment, but there's some sort of situation where there's a power imbalance, where there's fear, where there's real risk? What did you learn about going through that kind of thing?
I could certainly look at the me that was wrestling with this decision a couple of years ago and say, MK, just keep your mouth shut. And I probably, if that had happened, maybe I'd still be at Fox. Would that have been a better version of me? No, I don't think so. But a lot of shit has come my way since then. I mean, a lot of bad things have come my way since then too. And I can't say I regret any of it. And some people disagree. I have friends there who, have disowned me because they think I should have been loyal to him. I should have placed loyalty above probing the question of whether we had a serial harasser on our hands. I don't see how you weight your values that way, but that's my own value system. So I followed my own ethical compass.
Do you think that's in no small part because, at least from the outside, it looks like you have a good marriage and healthy kids?
I mean, I appreciate you asking that question because that's huge for me. And that's why I've always been so careful to nurture that part of my life because it is what actually matters. One of the reasons I wound up leaving Fox News, I wasn't seeing my kids. I could see my husband because he had a flexible schedule, but I could not see my kids at all. And they were little. When I left Fox, they were 7, 5, and 3. So I hadn't missed it. If this is my floor, that I'm with Doug and my kids, I'm good. This is as low as they can send me, that I'm with my people. Fine. I don't give a damn. I didn't grow up rich. I didn't grow up connected to anybody in power. Now I have this fancy apartment. I got all these books. What do I care about these books? These books can go away tomorrow. I can live in my little duplex apartment with my husband, who I adore, and my kids, who are awesome. We'll go to public school. I'll work. I don't care. I would work at a Starbucks. Not Starbucks. I don't like Starbucks. But I would work at a Barnes & Noble. Like, I don't care. My dad died at a very young age, and he got gypped. And God can gyp you. Health problems can gyp you. Or you can gyp yourself. And that's what I was doing, just working at the office all the time and trying to prove something to myself that was stupid. That what? I was powerful, that I could do it, that I was tough enough. Well, who cares?
Talk to me about this past summer. How did you think about Black Lives Matter and all the conversation around that?
Well, when George Floyd was killed, I think a lot of Black people and white people were deeply affected by that tape. And when I saw the riots unfold, my first instinct was, how can we ask people to respect law and order and sort of the balance of decency when we don't live that? That was my first reaction. As the summer went on, I began to feel very differently. As it morphed into more of a political movement where, to me, it seemed co-opted by activists as opposed to just people who wanted change, and some reform in law enforcement turned into defund the police, which I know, having done my research, is something most Black people are against and will hurt Black women and children in particular in the inner cities. And like the stuff with flipping over the tables and making people raise the fist, it was like, this is not the way to get buy-in on, what started as, I think, an earnest effort to improve Black lives. In a way, I feel about it the way I feel about the MeToo movement. It started nobly, and then it morphed into something that wasn't going to be all that helpful. It wound up alienating the very group we most need to have buy-in on our progress, men. Men are now afraid of us. They're afraid to put us at the executive suite because they're worried we're going to use the Me Too movement unjustly to ruin a 30-year career. And I think the reality of our racial struggle right now, in part, is for Black people to ascend in a meaningful way. The truth is, you need white buy-in too.
If someone pushed you on that and said, I hear you and I hear your heart, but that making the big change that's needed sometimes is messy, and let's not worry about the messy because what's behind there is so important, what would you say back to them?
I'm not against some messiness. I mean, I remember in the Me Too movement, I was talking about, can't we have proportionality? Ben Affleck, who made the mistake of grabbing a woman's breast, which was just stupid, is not the same as Harvey Weinstein. There is a scale of sin and missteps. But I remember saying to my other friends, as we were talking about the need for proportionality, we'll get to that when the bomb-throwing phase of our revolution is over. And so I got that. When I was watching sort of some of the Black Lives Matter stuff this summer, maybe this is the bomb-throwing phase of the revolution. But I will say, the more I talk to, Black intellectuals, the more I worry about whether we're going to get there on issues of identity politics, because there are real data, for example, when it comes to police. And if you raise that with activists, then they tell you that they don't want to hear your data because it's contrary to their lived experience. And it's like, well, how are you supposed to argue against that? I don't know. I like the spaces where we can talk about it like you and I are right now. And then the other person can say, well, what about this? And you say your stuff. Maybe there's not an agreement, but there's listening. There's like a little understanding. And even that is progress.
Did you think Trump was going to win? If you and I had been friendly and we had been sitting at a Barnes & Noble, not a Starbucks, and I had asked you in 2016, who do you think's going to win the nomination? Who would you have told me?
I did not think Trump was going to win. I totally thought Hillary Clinton was going to win. And in my defense, I was talking to people at Fox News all day who thought that, and I thought, these are his boosters. I mean, Sean Hannity, who was as close to Donald Trump as you could get, would say to me night after night, I can get him to 267, but I can't get him to 270. And I know no matter what he says now, he was as shocked as anyone when Trump wound up at 306. It was stunning. I'll never forget sitting on the set that night with Brett Baer and Chris Wallace. And I think Trump won Florida, then Trump won North Carolina. And Chris Wallace said, I think we're all coming to the realization that Donald Trump could be the next president of the United States. And then there was this huge sort of graphic board in the studio. And it said, Donald Trump elected 45th president of the United States. And it was like, right? You have that like, and then in my case, of course, it had extra meaning because he had been bullying me for 9 months.
I've been very nice to you, although I could probably maybe not be based on the way you have treated me.
When you meet her, you realize she's not very tough and she's not very sharp. She's Zippo. Well, I just don't respect her as a journalist. I have no respect for her. I don't think she's very good. I think she's highly overrated.
So it was a little like, what does that mean for, me personally? There's that layer. I mean, we had made up by that point, but certainly there was a part of me thinking, my bully just got elected president of the United States, and how's that going to shake out? But it was surreal. The whole thing was surreal.
You could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
How did you respond when he said that thing? Because when he said that thing to you and still didn't go down in the polls, that's when I knew that he could win.
I was confused by it at first. I was confused why there wasn't a negative reaction when he attacked John McCain. He said he wasn't a war hero. He attacked me. He attacked the Gold Star family. And I thought, I don't understand why a Republican base doesn't react to this. But now I do understand. Now I understand it very well. I actually see why they liked him so much. I don't think it was, we hate Megyn Kelly or we hate John McCain or we hate a Gold Star family. I think it was just the guy doesn't give a damn. He'll go after anyone. He's a fighter. And if we send him to Washington, he's going to fight for us. And so we don't judge him. We're hiring him to go break the China, be the bull. So it's not that they liked the target of the attacks being attacked. Nobody wants a Gold Star family attacked. It's that they liked his pugilistic nature and the fact that he was just unbowed by anything that smelled like establishment.
Tell me why you started this podcast.
I started it because I wanted to be able to talk about the news in an unbridled way. I feel like more and more we're telling people they have to be quiet or they have to use certain words or not use certain words or don't touch that subject. Or if you touch it, you have to talk about it in this way. And I don't like it. I don't like cancel culture and I don't like false parameters being put around speech. I'm almost a First Amendment absolutist. And I'm worried about what's happening to the country along these lines. So I think it's worth fighting for. And I wanted a forum that I would control so that I would not be cancelable, right? So I could have all these discussions without fear of advertisers or activist groups. And I have to say, it's wonderful. It's great. Now I'm in a place where we can talk about anything. And I'm not crass and I'm not cruel. I try to do it in a thoughtful way, but there's no third rail. I'll go anywhere. I love it.
Megyn, here's my last question, given all that. Are you going to run for office? And if so, what and when?
Well, I don't even know what I'd run as. I don't know. I'm a registered independent. I feel like the country might be moving a little leftward. And so maybe I'm more of a Republican just because the country's going over here. But I've always seen myself as a centrist. And I've been a registered Democrat, too. And a registered Republican. I don't know what I'm a soulless lawyer, I think is what we're really finding out. But I really related to Oprah Winfrey when everybody was pressuring her to run. And what she said was, it's not in me, to sort of throw myself into there. But I think the bottom line is Oprah lives in a ranch called the Promised Land. Oprah has a great life. Oprah doesn't want to be in the paper every day as an awful person, right? Because that's what happens to you when you run. You get demonized. Obviously Trump, AOC, if you are at all strong. Joe Biden's a little bit more mild. So maybe he hasn't gotten it quite as bad, but he has too. Like a lot of bad stuff's been said about him, his family. Why do I want that? I could sit here, I could read my books.
You're going to do it, I predict. I think you're going to run for Senate, and I think it's coming in the next 2 to 4 years.
Well, thank you for the encouragement. I think, I don't know, maybe if I did it and I won, I'd probably call you up and yell at you.
Hey, Megyn, I'm so grateful. I literally hope this won't be the last time. There's 12 million other things I know that I want to talk to you about, but I hope you will come back, and I hope we'll have kind of lots more conversations going forward.
Anytime. I would love that. Thank you for having me.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Megyn Kelly. I think she's one of the people in this moment we've absolutely got to hear from. I was intrigued to hear about how she kind of rode to success, not exactly predictable. Very open and honest about what happened with Roger Ailes and spoke to the complicated nature of that. I was surprised, if I'm honest, about some of the things she later on said about MeToo and Black Lives Matter, but I'll save that debate with her a little bit till our next time together. I appreciate her coming here. And I certainly think that she's running for office, and you heard it here first. Anyhow, I hope you really enjoyed this episode. And if you're enjoying the show overall, think about subscribing. Definitely tell your good people. And our podcast, we go longer, so you actually get more of the good stuff. Try it out. Enjoy. I'll see you soon.